Okay, so welcome back. We've got a lot to talk about. And it's probably why I've stalled so long in coming back to talk about this series. There's just so many connections. I find it difficult to convey them all. I really do. And it's just trying to hold all this up in my mind and see it all at once, and it's very difficult. It really is. But all the connections are there. So we really have stumbled on to an immense vision of truth. Just absolutely monumental in every way possible. And the only person, the only perfect person that we have to thank for this revelation of truth is Jesus Christ, the living Son of God, who in the Bible, I think I've shown it a few times before. If I haven't, I probably will before this series is up. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before, though. You can find Jesus Christ quoted in the Bible as saying that within his parables are revealed the mysteries of the world that have been hidden since the very beginning foundations of the world. In his parables, he reveals these mysteries. What has been hidden. Now, not by him. He's not the one that's hidden them. Someone else has hidden these mysteries. His parable reveals them. And you got to think about the climate, the conditional environment that Jesus Christ was living in as a man, as he tactfully tried to give the truth to man while he was completely surrounded by the enemy, who was looking for any instance to bring him to prosecution, to bring him to judgment, and possibly bring him to death. They were looking for him to break rules. They were looking for him to break laws. And this is precisely one of the main reasons why the parable was used to teach, is because the truth could be taught outwardly and openly in a public setting without the Pharisees or the religious authorities of the day having a way to exactly convict him on anything. Because if he used an allegorical story that had a wisdom to be learnt from it, then there was no way to exactly say that he was talking about something that they wanted to convict him on. So within the parable, within his words, within his truth, it's all there. It's all there. So, for just one quick example here before we move forward, think about what we've already discovered when he describes that the broad way is the path that leadeth to destruction. I'm going to show you something unique here. I wasn't planning on showing you this right now, but this will tie up to what we're talking about. Everything, the fractal, the whole nine. Okay, you'll have to kind of go back and remember, over many videos back, we've talked about Enki. His number is 40. Okay, so Enki is this fallen prince. He's the lord of the Apsu. He's the lord of the abyss. He's the lord of the underworld. Okay, the chief lord. And that is the one who they're trying to bring into the material realm. Okay, so Enki's number is 40. Now, this is precisely why. Now, remember, you've got to think about this now. when we say that Enki is the fallen prince of this world, it's in perfect accord with exactly how Jesus Christ describes this fallen spirit being. He says he's the fallen prince of this world. So that goes to show you that at one time, Enki was not fallen. He's a part of the spiritual plan of this planet, but yet he has succumbed to the deception of the deceiver. Those of the spirit order that are higher than him, namely Satan, and then above Satan would be Lucifer. Through them, these planets and the individual planetary princes of the planets have been corrupted. Our planetary prince fell to this deception, ours on this planet, just as other planetary princes of other planets have fallen also. Because Enki is the one responsible now, because he becomes the Lord over the earth. He's the God over the earth, or the God of the earth, the great God of the earth that the Bible talks about. There's a God of the heavens, and then there's the God of the earth. The God of the earth is fallen because it was the prince of this earth who was the God, so to say, of this earth, who had fell. He was the order of sonship, lesser order of spiritual sonship, which was given to this planet at the most earliest times of this planet's evolution. And then this would tie up with the understanding of the Anunnaki. But not to say that Enki is actually one of these sons of God known as the Anunnaki who took unto themselves the daughters of men. No, Enki did not do that. Enki is in spirit form at this time. Enki's never been in the flesh. So these Anunnaki are a descendancy known in Genesis 6 as the sons of God. Enki is the commander of this order of sonship, material order of sonship that is on this world. And we know that in Job chapter 38 it clarifies that there was a time at the very foundations of the world, before the foundations of the world had become out of whack, out of course, that there was a time when all of the morning stars sang together with the sons of God. That's Job chapter 38 verse 7. These morning stars are the spiritual sons. The sons of God are the material order of sonship, but they're a high material order of sonship, which has been sent to this world to bring about a material civilization, but in a spiritual way. And this is why you look back in ancient history, the furthest civilizations back that we've discovered, that they still won't tell us the actual dates that they've started, they're highly spiritual. They're highly spiritual. Some of these civilizations, not all, but some of these civilizations represent this world in Job chapter 38 between lines 1 and 7. When this high order of material sonship known as the sons of God were on this world, and they were beginning to deliver the fruits of civilization to mankind in the correct way. But the rebellion took place. The high orders of sonship, now known as the morning stars, of which Lucifer, Satan, and this fallen prince, the devil, are all classified as in the Bible. Because there are so many myriads of orders of beings, celestial beings, spiritual beings of the heavens, even spiritual beings that are charged with certain forms of control over the material affairs of this world. There's many myriads of these beings. All of this could not be possibly revealed and absorbed by the human mind in the most ancient of times. Because of that, many of these orders of sonship, spiritual beings, classifications of angels, have all been just condensed and lumped up into a handful of titles. Morning Star would represent one of them. And a morning star is just a spiritual order of sonship from the lowest to the highest that brings a light, or the light of truth, to an evolving world of time and space. When that world of time and space is ready, it's reached its apex of material evolution, then it's ripe and it's ready for the spiritual evolution to begin. And that's what the job is of the sons of God. And that's what their job was when they came to this planet. Okay, before the rebellion. Just like we see in the early days of Job chapter 38 between lines 1 and 7. Now that goes back 450,000 years ago. Just to give you an idea of how much time has elapsed and why so much condensing is taking place in the scriptures. Just like I was telling somebody about the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is really a condensation of the information from 250,000 years ago forward to 40,000 BC. From 250,000 years ago BC forward in time up to 40,000 BC, that's the time period that the book of Enoch covers. So the book of Enoch, or Enoch himself, is not a real individual. Enoch is a symbolic individual that represents the descendancy, okay? The descendancy, the offspring of these sons of God with the daughters of men. And this is why we get the classic symbolism in the name Enoch, just as we break this down with Earth-Knock, or El-Knock, which would be Anu, El, Anu, Naki. And then this relates all the way back to their plan, which is now they want to knock up the daughters of man, which is this plan that they have concocted to overthrow the order and the dominion of this world, and to even bring this fallen prince into material body. All of that, as amazing as it sounds, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you understand a lot of what I said is already backed up every way you could imagine. For those of you who are new, it's just unfortunate that there is so little time and there's so much information that I've already covered in over 1,000 videos that you really need to get busy. You really need to stop looking for some sort of fault in what I'm saying and realize what exactly as I'm saying is love, brotherhood, that Jesus Christ is the way, that peace towards all mankind, even to your enemies, is the way. Okay? That's not a bad message. All right? You have to, for those of you who are new, you have to understand why so many people have come up against me, is because I'm bringing the simple truth in a way that challenges their doctrines to the core. It challenges their doctrines to the core. And I'm supported. I'm supported. We're all supported in the Spirit as we move forward in this truth. And I know there's just so much to say. It's so much to say. I had to say all that to prepare you to understand about this number 40 being associated with Enki, and about how it ties up with the parable of Jesus Christ, describing that this path of destruction is the broad way. And then we've brought that all the way down to New York City, because New York City is the broad way. It is the double. It is the Big Apple. It's the fulfillment of the fruition, okay, of this apple that was taken from Eden. All right, here's the amazing connection with the parable of Jesus. This path of destruction. Apollyon in Revelation 9:11. 9/11, we know what that represents. That represents terror. Now that ties back to what? New York City. That ties back to this supposed war on terror that the United States has taken up now, which has created this infringements on our rights, which has brought us to this very doorstep of the New World Order. Okay, it's all connected. So 9/11 is symbolic for terror. The terror war has symbolically taken place where now? At New York City, the Big Apple, which is the very same initiation of terror which took place on our world symbolically in Eden when the apple was accepted. That terror, or that reign of terror, began at that moment. And it's reaching its fruition, just as you see in the very fractal reality of our world. It's manifested as the very Big Apple, New York City. Well, back to Revelation 9:11. It describes, talking about the locusts, it says they have a king over them. And this king is Apollyon. Now, Apollyon is Enki. Okay, because we're talking about the locusts, we're talking about these beings that are under the ground. Who is the Lord of the netherworld? Well, that's Enki. He's the Lord of the abyss. He's the Lord of the underworld. And you can find all about that if you research Sumerian histories concerning their mythologies concerning the Anunnaki. Okay, you'll understand about the agenda, about this deception that's coming too, if you begin to look a little further. So if Enki is this of Lord of the Abyss, okay, now this is Apollyon, the very same king who is over the locust. Well, Apollyon means the destroyer. Destroyer. This ties us back up exactly to New York City via the words of Jesus Christ. Because Jesus Christ said the path to destruction, destroy, same word. The path for the destroyer, the path for Apollyon to come into this world would be the broad way. And he means that both literally, I'm talking about Jesus Christ, he means that both literally and figuratively. And let me show you something here, just to remind you of what we're looking at. There's the Broadway. Okay, there's that snaking path. It's not the straight and narrow, as we've talked about. It's the path of the Leviathan. It's the Broadway. Now, if we superimposed two of these upon each other, we're going to come up with a DNA double helix. I might possibly get to that and explain what all that means as this fractal grows. But at this point right now, the path for this ultimate Leviathan of Job chapter 41, their king over the lesser Leviathans, the locust, these illuminated, the path for this destroyer to come about our world is the broad way. They have to destroy New York City, the Big Apple. They're going to destroy New York City as a sacrifice, symbolically symbolizing New York City now as Eve, the fallen Eve, which they symbolize as her riding the beast. Okay? Now this is where it's going to get tricky, and I'm not going to go any further into that, but this is how Eve is going to shift into their occult symbology philosophy of Ishtar. And this is where I told you that Ishtar can be seen in two ways, as a virgin and then as a whore. And you have to understand their philosophies go deep into the ancient history, and they have twisted all of the facts up. Now, I know the ancient history, which enables me to untwist their facts and see the perfect light of truth, as I'm showing you right here. So let's fulfill the parable word of Jesus Christ 100% with the fractal, to let you know that we're working with the spirit of truth here 100%. So if Enki's number is 40 and New York City is going to be the path for the destruction, the second cup that brings this being into our world sometime shortly after, it's the thing that will break the seal, and Enki's number is 40, well, you have to check this out. what we would need to see. Give me 1 second here. This is a globe. Let me get it a little higher. All right. Let's bring it right on over to East Coast of the United States. Good old New York City. Okay. Now, what we want to see is New York City to be perfectly associated with the number 40. And I want you to look right there. Right there. 40 degrees. And if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be 40 degrees latitude. And New York City. Right there on the arrow. Now, this is a globe here. It's not going to be the most accurate globe in the world. I haven't had time. I could have just simply Googled and found out what parallel New York City is. I don't care that if it's not exactly perfectly on 40. Okay? What I care about is the fractal of truth connection, that it is pretty freaking close to exactly 40 degrees. Exactly. That's amazing. 40 is Inky's number. The path to destruction for Inky to fulfill is going to be at the Broadway, right out of Jesus Christ's own mouth, and there at New York City is pretty freaking on target for 40 degrees. That's just unreal. And it's just one small portion of the incredible connection of truth here that I'm trying to share with you guys. So, wow. Sorry that took so long to get out. And, okay, so to bring this Inky into the material realm, because they were going to undertake something, okay, and this would go back to the book of Enoch, where we know that these sons of God have taken unto themselves this oath. They bound themselves to mutual consecration, that they were going to do this, and that they were not going to deviate from their plans no matter what. They knew that they were going to suffer this binding and this sealing that was to take place of them. But within their plans, they believed that if they just stuck with it, eventually this elite race that was now given authority, kingship in the world, the present world leaders that are associated with these bloodline families, they believe that eventually these families would do the work, just like they're symbolized with the very tools of doing the work. Okay, the compass and the square. They believe that these families would do the work to eventually break this seal. And this is where we come to what they knew they had to do by taking unto themselves these daughters of men. All right. Okay. Now, we have to go back to the very foundation here in order to understand what all of this means with what I'm showing you. Because let's think about the last video for a moment that I did. The last video I did on this series, not the furniture and the art ones that I've been doing, but the last video that I did on this series, okay? And then let's think about what happened to the Super Bowl after that. I think I uploaded that last video on January 27th. What did I say at the very end of the video as I told you and I shifted this consciousness. I told you that their plan is for us, lights out. Lights out, those exact words. What happened at the Super Bowl? Coded with 13 and 22 at halftime. What happened? Lights out. Lights out. No, I didn't even see it. I don't have a TV. I don't have nothing. I haven't even looked at it one bit. All I know is what a few people have told me, and I actually did check it out on my app for CNN on the phone. I read a little bit about it to confirm that it was actually 13 minutes and 22 seconds. But what have I been saying for the entire video history? That at this end of the 13th Bach tune, that it's lights out. That they're trying to shift us totally into this darkness while they themselves supposedly achieve this illumination, which will put them in this rule, have this ability to control us. And at the video I said, lights out, and what is it dealing with? It's dealing with one half being black and the other half being light. Okay? And that was perfectly portrayed just within several days later at the Super Bowl. They encoded that even at the 13 and then the 22, the double, give unto her double. Unreal. Unreal. It's just, I don't know. It's all this always happens. This always happens. I do this video about Jordan, about the Jordan River being symbolic for Yarden, the place of descent. And then what? A few days later, some cop with the name Jordan in his name, and then his last name Dorner, which is door, and that's exactly what the seal is a gate, is a door that they're trying to open so that they can bring themselves into this world. I mean, I'm saying all this and telling you all this before these things happen. Just like the July sacrifice video I did, and then in July, there was the sacrifice that encoded all the Batman information, and then in my drawing from 20 years ago, there's the same Batman information encoded. Okay? So if you do want to know what's going on, or what's about to happen, or how all of this relates to the ultimate, at least spiritual insight that I can offer, then keep watching this channel. Keep watching this channel. Because if you're a lover of true good things, of the truth, okay, and you want peace, and you want that for the people around you. That's what I want. That's what we all want. Okay? You have to understand that there's just so many screwed up minds in this world because of all this deception that it's just heartbreaking. It's just absolutely heartbreaking that people have perverted their sense of truth and goodness so far to the point to where they're absolutely, compassionately, and morally blind themselves. And that the only thing that they're seeing is their vain desires, self-pleasures, which excludes the people around them, meaning that they're going to achieve their vanity at whatever cost, regardless of those that are going to suffer this destruction around them, because they believe that some ancient god in the past have chosen them for this, to rise above their brethren, even destroy and murder them so that they could achieve their divinity. Absolutely retarded. Absolutely retarded. Just no way to explain it. And I'm not really even showing you guys all the stuff that I need to show you. because it's just so much. And so it's late for me. I got to go to work again. But it's weird because many of you guys know that keep silent, especially, you know that I had a pretty interesting channel history as far as viewers and subscribers are concerned, the people that have kept up and watched this channel. I've had some real interesting chains of events take place here. And what really just absolutely blows me away is that some of these people that know the very in-depth truth of what I'm talking about and even praised it as they were having it shown to them, they praised the connections themselves as the truth. These people have all turned a blind eye to that, and still I see some of them try to present this information like Inky is something that's good. They're so perverted, so distorted. They've got so much tradition-bound doctrine that has gained momentum within their ancestral heritage. Their father's father, their bloodline, their right to rule, their inheritance has all corrupted their minds. The vanity of what supposedly what they're supposed to get and what they weren't able to get because of something or some other people, and now those people gotta die. It's all whack. It's all whack. The history that they've taught these people, these elite-minded Freemasons, and I say that in knowing that you are smart enough to know that not all Freemasons are bad. And I've said this before. It is only those that are willingly seeking this darkened knowledge through this occult avenue of Freemasonry that are about practicing this supposed coming sacrifice to achieve their divinity, their golden age. The lesser orders of Freemasonry are really not really aware at all what the higher orders or degrees are really even all about. You know, they believe they're doing something good, and a lot of them do live good lives. So you can't just generally say that it's all Freemasons that are bad. That's why I continually point out this association with the Ephraimites, with this English Egyptian Templar Knight Freemasonry that's aligned itself specifically to those ideologies. And then that's how we can connect to false Israel and see the manifestation that relates back all the way back to Inky, the fallen prince of this world, okay, which is now the representation of their illumination, their light bearer. Okay. People, even though they know the root of all this from the perspective that I've shown it, all of the billions of tangible connections, at least in my mind, whether you've been able to see them all or not, there's infinite bits of information that are connected here. Infinite. I can't even show them to you all. It's unreal. And I purposely withhold big portions of this fractal from you guys, not you guys specifically, but the other people that watch me that are on the shadow side, so that they can't use this information. I purposely leave big portions of this out so that if they ever try to take what I'm showing and twist and contort it, I break out the next portion, which will flow between everything I've say, but with them it'll hit a dead end. It'll hit a roadblock. They won't be able to continually join and harmonize all of this truth, because their truth runs into skewed tangents, which are in essence the equational abyss. It's the dead end. There isn't a connection to a connection to a connection to a connection to the truth of the goodness of the truth, the only connection that they can keep going back to is the shadow. Back to the carbon, back to the material, back to their material golden age, back to their material intellect, back to their material vanity, back to their material look, their material wealth, back to the shadow. That's all they can do. Okay, the material crown. All right? But it's the spirit. They say mind over matter. Okay, but it's spirit over mind. They believe that they're dealing with the spirit, but in reality, they're only dealing with the spiritual portion of the mind. Okay? And this is what is giving them, through the knowledge that the Anunnaki offered these daughters of man, this occult knowledge, this is what's given them the power of mind over matter. And why you see the mind is being reflective in the matter. Okay? Because I told you that this is representation of the perceptual consciousness of man that's been divided upon the knowledge, the division of the brain, the hemisphere, the material portion, spiritual portion, okay? Which creates a perceptual limitation for the majority of the masses. Okay, they're only viewing the world with one eye, and unfortunately it's the materially blind eye. Okay? Well, you see that this is playing out. This perceptual consciousness, this mind, is playing out over the matter, over the earth. And the earth is, in a sense, following behind this mindal exchange of energy. Then the matter itself is the shadow, which will always follow the substance. Okay. Big stuff. All right, I've just been rambling here a little bit. But I need you to understand that when I do come back again, we're going to go back to this root here of Jashin and Boaz, because this is telling you it, guys. This is telling you, okay? The union of the two towers. Think about the Lord of the Rings movie, okay? It's all about the union of these two towers. There's your two towers. Okay. The reason why the World Trade Centers were brought down, because those two towers were separated. They need to unify these two towers as one. This is what this represents, the unification of the two towers. Now, I told you what the two towers were. The two towers are beauty, the daughters of man, and the beast, the serpents. The serpent sons of God. Just as you see, Dan, as we know, is code for the DNA, which is code for these ancient mighty men that took unto themselves the daughters of men, which is code for the descendancy of these ancient mighty men known as the Nephilim. Okay? They're symbolized with the serpent. They're symbolized with the illumination of the serpent, who is this Inky, who is the Nahesh, which represents the serpent, who is the one that has given them the high scientific understanding for the ability to be achieved for this plan to come to fruition at this age we're presently in right now. This was a far-reaching plan. Far-reaching plan. This tells you they knew exactly what to do, how to do it. Okay? So there's your Boaz as the boa for the serpent. This represents the right brain, the left eye. The left eye, that's the Illuminati, that's the illumination, that's the serpent illumination that they represent. That's what the Boaz represents. This left column represents the left eye. Okay? And then we get up into the portion of the brain hemisphere here. Okay? Now we come back to Jashin. Jashin represents the right eye. That's the material daughters of man. The darkened matter of which the spirit would be applied. Okay? The light being, although it be a fallen light being, this light was to be applied to the matter. Okay? This represents the right eye, the left brain. I don't know, because the time's getting on here. You see the 69 here, right? Well, it's the same thing right here. 4 plus 5 at the 45 mark is what? 4 plus 5 is 9. Here, at the phallus point, which I told you is the same position here that we have with Baphomet and the phallus, that's 45 degrees. Same position here. 4 and 5 is 9. 4 and 5 is 9. There's our two 9s, the 6 and the 9. Uh-oh, the mirror. Basically, it's telling you 69. It's the same thing that's taking place right here. It's just an immense explanation to show you how this works out with the mirror between the 6 and the 9. But I just want you to see it's all exactly where it should be. Because I told you this is where the phallus would line up, okay, to achieve this point here, which is the bringing together of the supposed dualities, good and evil, light and dark, male and female, which really, they're not dualities. That's another video that I want to do here shortly to explain that there are no dualities. There's perceptual dualities, but there's not ultimate or absolute dualities. Light and dark, meaning think about physical light, the light that comes from a lamp. Light and dark are not diametrically opposed. Darkness has no will to impose upon light, because the absence of light is where the actual creation of darkness comes into play. So darkness is actually dependent upon light to be actualized, or dependent upon the absence of light to be actualized. So there's no opposition. It's the very fact that the shadow is absolutely dependent upon the substance. It's dependent upon it. And we see that this mercy, this grace period, this dependency that the shadow has had on the reality of the truth of this light, which is Jesus Christ, for so long, is coming to a close. Now that's the spiritual understanding that we've gone from the physical. The absence of the light represents the absence of Jesus Christ in their mind from this world. But we know that Jesus Christ dwells within the house of his believers. So in our mind, he's not absent. But because they don't believe, Jesus Christ is not in their house, he's not in their temple, he's absent, guess what? There's darkness. The absence of light is darkness. Therefore, they're the shadow magic of Israel, fractal complete. Okay? Israel rejected Jesus Christ. They rejected the light of this world. Therefore, they've developed their shadow magic to counter what they've lacked. But as I told you, the shadow is dependent upon the light. Now we see that no matter what, they still believe in the words of Jesus Christ. They believe that within these words of Jesus Christ are encoded the very secrets of the world, just as Jesus Christ has said within the red letter word of the Hebrew Bible. But the encoding is not a secret. The encoding is the truth for the believers of Jesus Christ to understand. When they look at it, all they see is the mirror. All they see is themselves, their backward selves, staring back. That's exactly right. They have preserved the words of Jesus Christ. Have you ever thought why they have so much control that they still allow these words of Jesus Christ to be in the Bible? Well, they believe that, like I said, encoded in it is their path to divinity. So they have to have them there. They feel that they have to have them there. They don't value Jesus Christ as the identity of the eternal Son of God. I told you that they believe that he's just some initiate, and now they're trying to crack the code of the parable of his word to achieve their own divinity. But the code of the parable of his word is for the believers in his truth, the believers in his two commandments, to love your neighbor as yourself, to love the Father with all your might. Then in the fullness of eternity, you achieve your perfection, your quote-unquote divinity. Because he says, be thou perfect, even as I am. That is an aspect of divinity. Not that we become God, but we are the sons and daughters of God. Like father, like son. Incredible. Incredible stuff. So, this 23 enigma, this knocking of the earth, it's going to relate back to this symbolized descendancy, Enoch, Okay? The Anunnaki, and then they're knocking up the daughters of man. All of that ties us back to the symbolism here. Now, you're taking in a lot of info now. These two columns predate Solomon's temple. For any of you guys that are going to come in here and say, Solomon's temple, this represents some Hebrew names. Okay, yeah, it does represent Hebrew names. But these names are descriptions of something that goes back earlier in time. Their meanings are pulled back from something earlier in time. We'll talk about where these columns can be found at other temples that predate the Temple of Solomon by thousands of years. And it's the very same two symbolic columns. And yeah, these are going to be temples that are associated with quote unquote heathen gods, pagan gods, believers in these fallen gods. They've got the same symbolic two towers, which is this, it's representing the same information that the Solomon Temple towers are representing, because this Solomon Temple tower is using this same occultic information to achieve the supremacy of divinity for fallen Israel in this world, just as it was given in its origination from the garden by the serpent to the daughters of men. It's there. That's the plan. Jashin, let's just look at something real fast. Okay, you can see the name Boaz. Okay, and you can instantly, by the fractal, you can instantly relate serpent. I hope that this video did not drag on and was interesting enough to show you something so I could get to this point here. Let's just simply read this. Jashin and Boaz. Proper names meaning he establishes. That would be Jashin. And agile. That would be Boaz. Now, is a serpent not one of the most, if not the most agile creature that you could possibly think of? I mean, it's just uncanny. Okay, but we'll get further into this here. The names of the two bronze pillars that stood on either side of the entrance to Solomon's temple. They may have been 27 feet in height and 6 feet in diameter, with a 10-foot capital on top. Perhaps each word was the beginning of an inscription that was engraved on the respective pillars. Analogous pillars have been found in front of temples at, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that, Tyre, Paphos, and other places. Their function appears to have been primarily ornamental. Yeah, right. Though some have suggested they may have been giant incense stands. Wow, try to throw you off the path there. It is possible, just possible, just maybe, that they took on some symbolic religious significance with the passage of time. Yeah, just possible that we have other ancient temples that are associated, I mean, right on to here with Tyre, which is going to bring it right on back to Satan himself. Symbolism with Satan. Okay, so these towers are from a symbolic knowledge. They represent a symbolic knowledge that predates the Temple of Solomon and is being used on many temples through a widespread geographic area. All preserving this knowledge, the very same knowledge that you see right here, which is culminating in our time here. Okay? So we need to get to, at least to this point, to get you to see that Jashin is going to open right on up for us. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail, possibly, when I come back and do more with this chart and show you more about what I'm talking about here. But personal name meaning Yah. I'm sorry. Jashin, personal name meaning Yah established, son of Simon, an original ancestor of a clan in the tribe, spelled Jerib in 1 Chronicles 4:24. Boom. Boom. This is going to tie us up to being the daughters of man, and you are going to be blown away here. This, as I told you, these columns predate Israel, okay? They predate Israel. Hebrew Israel, all right? They predate the Temple of Solomon. We saw that there are other temples of more ancient times that have the exact same two symbolic columns that are related to the exact same pursuit of this wisdom here, which is their enlightenment, their illumination, same topics of the world today. Now, because the columns go back much more ancient in history, you have to understand that the very name meanings themselves are connected to this very ancient root in history. Just like we see the serpent root for Boaz show up. Now Boaz perfectly represents the left eye illumination, the right brain. Okay, that's the serpent. Beauty and the beast coming together. Here's our connection for Jashin being the daughters of men. In Chronicles 1:424, it's spelled Yarib. Yarib. Okay, because there weren't no J's, so this would be a Yah. Instead of a Jah, it would be a Yarib. Yarib, people. Yarib is the root for this name. So it doesn't matter that son of, he was one of the sons of Simon was named a name that means Jashin. Doesn't matter. What we're talking about is what the root identity of where this name originally comes from. And it comes from the plan of the serpent to establish his dominion. And how was he to establish his dominion? Through the 23 Enigma, which represents the 2/3 more genetic material that the daughters of men would offer, which represents what? The rib, the DNA. And just as you know in Genesis, that in this portion of the story of Genesis, that we see that woman was taken from Adam as a rib. Woman is the Yarib. And it's going to be a specific group of women that we're talking about here. Spelled Yarib. Jashin is nothing other than the daughters of men. Beauty, what does it say? They took unto themselves all the daughters of which they thought were fair. They thought were beautiful. But also fair represents light in color, which then we come back to the Caucasian conspiracy. The Aryan conspiracy, which is connected back to Sumeria, which is fractal complete with some Aryans. And then if you want to know where the roots of Freemasonry come from, boom. In modern times, they can trace back to Germany. And the Aryan movement connects back to the United States through Project Paperclip with the demise of World War II. And then we're with the demise of the German nation, the Nazi nation, the Nazi movement, and then we absorb all of their chief scientists, and at the same time, we absorb their agendas, their philosophies. It gets put more mainstream into our controlling government. Just unreal. Beauty and the beast. Beauty and the beasts. So the serpent that appeals to Eve in the garden, Eve represents this this establishment. Eve is the one that accepts the apple. This deception, this temptation has been established, which is now the path for destruction, of which this Apollyon, this serpent, could follow eventually to achieve his identity in material form. I'll be back.